Hey, what's up, Phil? Sorry if you had problems joining or if the link seemed messed up today. I accidentally had the time set for 11 p.m. and I didn't. So,
All good, all good.
say that for me again. Did you say something?
Yeah, I said all good.
Got you. How's the morning going?
It's almost midnight here.
Oh wow. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
Thanks for joining then.
sounds good.
Yeah, I'm gonna are you familiar with VAPI? Are you familiar with like voice
Ah,
and so
yes, sir, yes, sir.
yeah, okay. Have you built anything with VAPI or?
Yeah, yeah, basically, I built about 50 projects on VAPI.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
Nice, nice. All right, yeah. I'll just be going over some
okay.
well, you know what? I don't want to say basic because voice
Mm,
is a lot of components inside of
yeah,
that. It's not basic at all. There's
I
many
know.
different levels. So I mean, of course, like feel free to ask me any questions if you want. I like I said, I do know I think the time I kind of messed up, so people probably might join a little bit later, but I'm gonna just go over the basics and then try to advance into like some other things and stuff like that. Because some things have actually changed with VAPI that I
Okay.
haven't even played with yet or looked at. And also I just logged in there this morning and I seen something new, which is like quite interesting to me specifically because of some other things that I've done. So I'll probably wait about like 5 minutes and then even if nobody else
Okay.
joins, I'll probably just get started from there.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I think you're on mute.
Oh yeah, I kind of actually was talking to myself, but I could say it out loud. I was just saying I got to get a couple of things ready because I do have to go down memory lane actually for this. There's like so many things to show to start off with and other things like that. Which account is this in? Just make sure I'm in the right account. Oof, man, I haven't been in here in forever. Jesus, it's funny. Uh,
So, like, what tool do you basically use now aside VAPI?
it's in terms of voice platforms.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It would still mainly be VAPI, even though I haven't used it in a while. To be honest, I haven't been doing anything voice lately just because of other personal projects and clients projects. It's maybe been about 2 or 3 months since I've actually done some voice things, but like I'm still super updated with like a majority of the platforms, not only just because try to stay updated with a lot of things, but I'm in other communities where other people still use different platforms and stuff like that. But particularly in VAPI, and I'll get into it like in a little bit more. Like I'm very active, or I used to be very active in their Discord community. And
Yeah.
like the new community manager like knows me very well. I actually just got off a meeting with her earlier this morning talking
Okay.
about some stuff. Yeah, because I'm still very familiar with like the API, even though they've made some changes and doing stuff like that. But in terms of like voice platforms that I would use in general, it would either be VAPI or LiveKit. But I have built voice assistants with VAPI, Retail, SynthFlow, like Ultrabox. I've done it with all of them, but I just prefer VAPI, and it's probably really just because even though I'll talk about some of the things that I don't like and some of the things that they're working on
Mm.
throughout the video today, I still really like them as a platform, and I think like they fit a purpose. I do think they're really good also just to start off with before you start going into self-hosted solutions like LiveKit and stuff, which we'll be kind of exploring tomorrow. The more so really the cloud version, but we'll talk about like the self-hosting a little bit and stuff like that. That always is usually a big topic with certain platforms and stuff like that, self-hosting, but it's not something that I would professionally recommend people that they need to start doing that for clients. Like if anything, just kind of do it for yourself and then go from there before you start trying to offer that to your clients and stuff.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good.
hmm Make sure everybody else is joining or anything. So I guess just share my screen. Do, 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 do. Today we are talking about VAPI, and I have my VAPICon hat here from the San Francisco VAPI event, which was a fun event where there was a lot of stuff going on in general around voice. And I got an invite from Vappy to go there, and I met a couple of other people, content creators, and people who do stuff in the space. And I can't sadly because I'm already logged in. I just wanted to go to like the normal landing page and be simple, but of course, Vappy won't allow me to be great and do that. I think we log out. I just doing that, so I'll just do that really quick because I really do just want to go to them. So I got into Vappy because I had a client in a go high level space. Um, Actually, no, she's not the reason, but it's kind of the reason why I got pushed more into doing stuff. But basically, when school was getting very popular, I'm always in a lot of communities, and I met a gentleman who was basically looking for a developer to help teach about automations or do things because he was already doing things with VAPI. And that person's name is Trey John, who's also known in the VAPI community as well. So we were supposed to collaborate, never did. Both just were really busy and doing our own thing, which led me just to one, when I first got introduced to VAPI, there were no modules on Make specifically. And basically, I got introduced to Jordan to kind of have a conversation because one of the things that I actually do is build modules like that in certain platforms. I have experience with that. So, kind of just talking to see if that was something that they were going to go down because really the only way to build at that time was in the documentation page. And that was like really hard for people to do. So, fast forward, basically, that's how I got into VAPI. And then I just started automating, doing a lot of things. I'll talk about like some of the projects I did, a custom GPT that I built called VAPI. If you have my YouTube channel and you actually go there, that's some of the first content that you'll see is talking about building a dashboard with VAPI, talking about using a GPT to build with VAPI. And I don't have a plan anymore. It's been so long since I've used ChatGPT, but just to kind of go into context there, I had a custom GPT. One of the things that I'm also known for is creating a bunch of GPTs that actually connect to platforms. So I created a GPT called My VAPI. At the time, this was really just supposed to be something to show people how AI could help them use APIs and build stuff. Um, and I think this is probably not going to be here because I updated it. Oh, I'm probably not even going to be able to go there because I don't have a paid plan, but I would go into the back end and show you this very large schema file that had all of the APIs and put in your own API key and it works. And that got really popular. It was even in the VAPI documentation at some point in time. And it was cool. It's how I kind of got to show people how to do stuff with large language models and not really be, even at that time, you didn't, there was like, I don't say the tools weren't as good, for example, of like Claude Code, but it was just way easier to do it like that at that time. And then I went into like making templates, which I'll talk about, and like Airtable and like all of these other things in it, and fixing a lot of YouTube automations, which I probably won't try to get too much into that because that's not the point, but just kind of giving some context on how I got into building voice agents. And I thought it was really cool. I think I personally like web more than phone. A lot of people get caught on phone, but there's a lot of regulation and other things. Not to say there's not regulation by doing web calls or having a web interaction, but I really like web more. So I eventually found the VAPI Discord. I was already in the VAPI Discord, and I just was trying to help people do different things. And to kind of go into that before we get into building with VAPI, I will actually put a link to this is kind of like I would use the word depreciated now because VAPI has changed some of their APIs and stuff. But this is also something that I had made that I hate to admit I never really shared publicly. But it was in plans because I always wanted to do kind of like a VAPI course. And it was really just a gamma that I made that talked about literally different things going into like when you're dealing with voice, building voice agents, because there really are, I guess, like a lot of technicalities, and that isn't bad. And I'm not going to say these aren't, we're not going to go over like all these things today, but I do think this is like something good to share because there are like different parts of doing this. And also, when you get past kind of like that testing phase, like you are going to be spending, I guess I would say, like some type of money because you have to buy a phone provider. You might want to start doing text messages. You have to go through an A2P protocol. And we're not even speaking about that, like in the client sense and all those other things like that. So just put that in the chat so you guys can have that. I might go back and forth and reference that. And I might go and reference like if and this is just saying if anybody has questions or they're thinking about like databases and all that stuff. I built one in Airtable, Supabase, Convex, all of the same using kind of like the VAPI um infrastructure, how it's built in the back end, like all those things like that. And it's actually a funny story because I was able to do all that stuff because like when I remember when I first got into VAPI, and I'll probably literally have to find this conversation in Chat GPT somewhere, but I literally got into VAPI. I did a call, I got an end of call report, and literally my first day, I was like, I need to build a dashboard to put this in there. And that led to like all of this deep diving and stuff I was making to make it easier to make voice assistants because I could see how like that would be a continuous process. And obviously I always think of the way of templatizing stuff and not building from scratch. It's kind of what I talk about. And this is kind of, I guess, an example of building something for yourself that, or for clients. Well, that's the same thing. Building something for yourself or you're building it for yourself in a way for clients that you can continue to reuse because some of these automations, like these ones that I'll talk about right here, are related to like why I have this database and stuff like that. So the first thing is with all that rambling I just did to give the best type of context I can, I'm going to log into my VAPI account. And it's so funny because my original, OG quote unquote VAPI account. I accidentally deleted. That's so funny just remembering that. I accidentally deleted it thinking it was another account because I usually always have access to a lot of accounts. And usually I try to have my own testing account. And I thought I was in the testing account. And something I'll talk about a little bit more, or some people might have experience with, or and speaking in terms of people who might watch this video later, is the VAPI dashboard is kind of inconsistent or it will have problems. So I lost my main account because the dashboard, instead of like usually when we used to switch accounts and do this, it said I was actually in um, another account. Basically, this was mismatch when I switched like I just did, and I did that, which is so funny. So just in case anybody's like, why doesn't he have anything in his account and stuff? When I usually try to showcase things with voice platforms, I try to have a demo account and not use what would be my real account. And since they've made changes, I have not come back to build all of those new things. I'm just in another client's account doing that stuff. So here I have some assistance, and I'll usually sometimes, if my client doesn't have an account, do some testing in my account first and stuff like that. Um, so I guess the first thing to talk about, because it's really interesting, like this is from a Claude Code perspective, but they made something called Composer, which is kind of like the equivalent to what I was trying to make or did make with the custom GPT example that I just gave you, where this will build agents, debug, and do all that stuff. But we're gonna skip all that. The main kind of point is being able to build something, especially like when it comes to Claude Code and not being inside of this voice assistant. So we're just gonna build a voice assistant. I don't have any specifics unless someone requests one, if they come off mic or say something in the chat, and kind of go through adding on to that voice assistant and doing different things and stuff like that and playing around. So let's open up VS Code and folder, uh, code. And I actually have projects called voice, so I need to be careful of what I name this because to be honest, I would make a folder where I could do work for any voice platform that I wanted to work with. So I just wouldn't name this folder VAPI. So maybe I would name it like Voice Foundation. It's not that bad of a name. It's fine. Because for like I know there's going to be a lot of information in here. And to be honest, like for example, when you pick a telephony provider like Twilio or Telnyx, that's going to be like you want those things to be kind of agnostic, right? Because let's say I don't use VAPI, or let's say I'm building another project not with VAPI, I start to use a telephony provider and all those other things. Just going back to why I would use a folder to build all of my voice projects in and stuff like that. So let's open the terminal, start up Claude, trust this. We're gonna slash MCP disable, turn off those MCPs, and then I just want to say I am very interested in building a voice assistant with a platform called VAPI. Can you do some research on what we will need and what can be used so I can go through building a voice assistant? That would be great. Now, this is going to answer some questions and stuff. And while it does this, I guess I'm going to try to still cover like components of a voice platform, and I might miss some. So if I do, feel free to say something or say it in a chat. So first, just in terms of what I mean by that is like, first you have your voice platform. Then you need a telephony provider. What is a telephony provider? Voice over internet protocol, VoIP provider. I think that's what that stands for, right? I could be wrong. Twilio, Telnyx, basically these companies where you can go buy a phone number and or do other things with services that they provide to give your assistant a phone number. You have that. And really the biggest kind of thing with that is not only trying to get a phone number in your country, depending on where you're at. But sometimes that process also, if you're trying to serve in the United States, there's a process called A2P. Um, yeah, very, very true. But and I'll get into that in a little bit. The reason why, so one, the reason why they do that is because just in general, from a testing phase, even and this today is a perfect example because I'm gonna do it. It's way easier to come and they already partner with Twilio to give you a phone number to get used to that process. More than likely, though, and from my own experience, being in multiple communities, building for multiple people, just in voice AI in general, they're not using the number that VAPI retail or anyone is providing because you get nothing out of it. One, it's not your account. Two, you can't control the number. Three, you don't get anything that is sent to that number, right? So you can't get messages, do all that stuff. Now, I do think they did add the feature to send text messages still, but the point I'm trying to make is like no actual business is going to use someone else's account when it comes to a phone number or doing stuff like that, especially if they already have an account. And surprisingly enough, most businesses do have some type of voice over internet provider to where they wouldn't do that. But you are right though. And I do think in general, like in an example like this again, like if you're first getting started off, just use that phone number to get used to things. But very soon you are going to go buy another phone number and do stuff like that. So we got the phone number part. Then we have like, I guess when it comes to what large language model you want to use and do all that stuff, depending on what platform you use. So for example, I like VAPI because they're just flexible in terms of having a plethora of options to choose, opposed to retail where all of the voices there are special 11 labs customized voices. And that's not me saying that that's bad. It's not bad at all. I just prefer flexibility because one, I know that I might want to change at any given time. And me personally, I don't even like 11 Labs that much, even though they are quote unquote the best platform when it comes to voices and stuff like that. I like Cartesia and other platforms a little bit better, and they're a little bit cheaper. 11 Lab charges by the character, which gets really expensive. Not to say that getting into do you pay more for that if you use retail or not, just kind of why I like VAPI and that flexibility and things like that. Which I think all providers should kind of go that route, but it does make sense for many different reasons why someone might have a specific platform that they partner with, enterprise deal packages, certain features to make the voices better, like all these other things like that. Um, Two, you need basically a database or a dashboard basically to see this information, hold this information, whether it's for you or your client. And then I think really the next thing, and it hasn't really been talked about until like coming up more recently, is like what's called logging. So platforms like Langfuse and I can't think of the name of the other one that give you like the what is it called, telemetry and actual other kind of logs that you would get to see how your voice agents are actually performing with like latency and how long it took for a tool call and like all those other things like that are like super important. And then while this is still obviously doing this deep dive, and what kind of makes sense for this deep dive is if I go to the VAPI API here, because right, that's what we're going to be using. They have a very extensive API, and they've always had a very extensive API, which is I don't know, I like that, and I guess me seeing it from how much it's changed, kind of seeing like the growth of the platform as well, and also I like that because I don't know, like I said, I don't use platforms from the normal interface and things like that. So having a robust API where I can, in my eyes, do more than what I might be doing um, on the actual screen is better. And what I really do like what VAPI has is this system called Transient Assistance. So basically, and I'll try to make sense of this the best way because when I say this first time, I can understand why it doesn't make sense at all. So I have always used transient assistance in VAPI. I normally don't have assistants in my dashboard like this here, like you can actually see them. They just don't. Basically, a transient assistant means the assistant doesn't exist until the call starts. Whereas a dashboard assistant, I call it, always lives here and it has an ID from VAPI. So, like in this account, we see that I have assistants here. And then even if I go to my logs, which probably won't show because they all deleted from like past 30 days or something. So I would have calls here. And I can still kind of show what I'm talking about because I'm doing that from adding these here. So I don't have any assistance. But if I actually go to my call logs, oh, 30 days have come very fast too. Um, I guess I have to show that right now because I just defeated the whole purpose of the point I was trying to prove. But if you guys are kind of lost with some stuff, I normally use transient assistance. And I want this um, to start doing some stuff. It's going to ask me some questions right now. Because I'll start going into that. So we're going to do both web and phone. Um, I like to do Node.js and then yeah, let's just do a learning and exploration type of thing because that's what's going on here. So I'm going to let it do that. And then kind of just to dive in a little bit more, hopefully not to get too technical because I think it's actually just making a plan right now just to make sure, right? Yeah, so hopefully from the experience we've been having, my car likes to take a long time when it's planned. So let's just go into this right here because, well, of course, I'm not saying you have to come and do this, but I kind of want to show from a developer perspective, like how I would do this, how I did do this before the MCP and before the CLI was out. Now, granted, right now, I I'm more than likely gonna have this use the CLI just to because all the other examples that I've used or talked about in some of these platforms, if they don't have a CLI, it's perfectly fine to come here, grab the API, do some stuff. But when you have that CLI, remember Claude Code itself is a CLI tool. So Claude Code using another CLI tool is just chef kiss. It's like the best thing that you can think of. But just going into some of this because I will always believe it's super important and you'll find other things that you didn't know here. So if you come to the create assistant and if you actually click on this try it, this will actually open this up. So before like AI was out and all this stuff, this is how I would normally come and test some stuff, which I think is like pretty normal. That's what this documentation is for. Now, granted, it probably wants to load slow at the time that it's most important to show how to use this, which is great. Thank God for that, right? But keep in mind, yeah, it's let me do that. I just wanted to load to go into the next thing. Well, I guess while it's doing that, all of this stuff right here is so and think about this for building assistance, right? Because going through this helped me build all these other things that you're gonna see me talk about in terms of like um um building something so you can just build voice assistants and not have to keep doing this process that we're doing or whatever the case may be. Did this just stop loading and will not want to do that? Okay. But anyway, like when you, okay, now I load it to build an assistant, right? And I want this to load because I do think it's way better, right? So let me just make sure doesn't need to ask me any questions. Okay, yeah, it's trying to just look for everything that it needs. It's good. So, because to be honest, it's really fast to build a voice assistant, but um, at least in my experience, what I found out is that it takes really like 2 to 3 months to really see how to configure that voice assistant. And I don't even mean from the first one, maybe just understand how to do testing, all the edge cases and all those other things that come with building uh, a voice agent to do whatever it might do. Uh, so when you click on this, it's basically just going into basically like the different sections of a voice assistant, right? So you have the transcriber, the model, the voice, the first message, server messages. Some of this stuff is new, but all of this stuff here is piece by piece in building a voice assistant. So when I used to, when I think they changed this. So hold on, because there used to be an assistant here at the top, and there's not anymore. So that is interesting. Give me a moment to think here. Why would that be gone? Why would the assistant now, to be really honest, because that one is kind of throwing me for a loop. And which is one thing about VAPI, sadly, they have not updated their change law. This is very bad, but I'm pretty sure I can still find the information that I'm looking for because that is quite interesting to me, and I do want to know that, which would basically be, and I really would start a new conversation for this. But it's basically going to be, can you look at the change log and tell me the recent changes that FAPI has had? And specifically for me, that's important because once again, being slow here. I'm very familiar with how the API structure is, and that sounds very nerdy saying that, but when you've kind of done that process that I was going through and trying to build something that way, it just becomes very like you can just visually see it all the time. So can you look at the change log and tell me what were the recent changes? One of the things I'm trying to figure out is was the assistant part taken out of what you would send in the body as a normal request. And I don't even want that to be in plan mode. I just want that to go do its thing. So this is still doing this. I'm coming back to here, right? Basically going into this, and I'm not obviously not going to build everything, but just one thing that people used to always ask me is why do you use the API more than the dashboard? And this is usually the case for almost any platform you use, but it's especially the case for voice AI. So usually you do not see all of the settings in like that front interface usually. And I can't be specific to each one here, only just for the fact that they probably updated some things and it still won't be that. But all I'm once again just trying to get you guys to remember is building these voice assistants in terms of VAPI. They're done in sections, right? So you would start with a transcriber, right? Then you would have a model, and then it didn't pick model for some reason. It did. It's just like small like that. So you have your model. You oh yeah, they've changed this significantly. I wish I had an old video of what that is. So let me do this. I don't want Cartesia. I want deep gram. And I'm just curious here. And look at that. 13 more things popped up, right? Because deep gram is very detailed. I mean, all of them are very detailed, but yeah, just kind of driving home that point. There's probably a plethora of little things here that you probably never knew that you could use. Like I'll show you one as an example. When you come here to messages and then you start off the role of what you want to happen. So literally just as an example, like when a call starts, you could have a tool call fire at the same time, a system prompt fire. Some people wondering how people do those things, and it's because of setting up settings like this inside of the API because basically there's going to be more things, features to set and toggle. So I want to just let it come. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. I don't want to go too deep into that because obviously there's for it. What I used to do is set up every one of these properties except for the ones that I really didn't need. And how do I know I didn't need those? I would have to click on it and then see what was in there. So, for example, for credential IDs, I didn't use that a lot. I probably will start using them now because of certain use cases. I would never have to use this. So, that would just be one of the ones there as I added the rest of these, um, like basically settings or whatever it is that I wanted. All right, so let's see this plan that it just said for us really quick, right? Because we're setting up web calls and phone calls. So it made a server, webhook, it made a tool registry, did some simple stuff, get weather, look up information. VAPI, I'm pretty sure it's going to install the VAPI SDK here in TypeScript. So runtimes, right? VAPI web, VAPI SDK, server TypeScript, get my API key. So it's going to make a .env local, I'm assuming. Run this locally, backend server, webhook tool calling, did that. Browser voice SDK, right? VAPI, and then it says, instead of using, I'll get into that in a minute. Web call first and then do a phone call. Oh, you can deploy a team of agents to build this in parallel as well. Always make sure you want to throw that little sprinkle on there. All right, look, call. That's funny. Let me parallelize this. That's a good one right there. So while it does that, I will keep kind of going into my explanation of just like this piece by piece building, right? So, and kind of, literally, I should have started off with this, but I think not is kind of better from that perspective. So, because you still have to do that first part first, for sure. Besides, if you talk to AI, of me, once again, I'm very used to going in there and looking at that stuff. I don't mind doing it because I actually can take that JSON that it's going to give me when I'm done fully building that and go put it where I need to put it. And I'll kind of show you that. I might have an example here. And if I don't, it's probably in one of my N8 accounts. So I haven't done anything in Make for a long time, not for any literally any specific reason. I just don't run an enterprise account anymore. And that's usually how I used to use Make. But as an example, I have some automations here, right? And one of them says Airtable create assistant database. So I also, when I made like that GPT, I made um maybe mm, I don't think I have this any. I made like basically like a library of assistants, right? Like I literally took a list of industries. I was like, hey, what are 50 industries, right? And then basically I was like, make me like 50 voice agents tied to this industry, and then I would just like go from there, right? So I think maybe let's see. Uh, I don't think I do. I wouldn't have had that anymore because there was a reason why I ended up getting rid of that. Don't remember why. Maybe it could be model. I don't remember why I ended up deleting that actually. But it was literally maybe yeah, it was something like this, but it's not here because it didn't work. Oh yeah, it's literally like this. So it's literally like a database of assistants that were like already pre-filled, right? And actually what I did kind of what I'm getting into is like right. So we have a name, a description, and kind of notice these things, right? We have a first message, a system prompt, industry, style, tone. You're gonna see inbound transient, outside transient, and then server transient. And it keeps going back to like this transient thing that I was talking about. And I think maybe Oh no, yeah, it didn't save from the example when I started cloning these. That means I still have to have this somewhere. I just don't remember where. I would think it would be in this little template thing, but it's maybe it's this one. Um, I'm so sad. I don't remember where that thing is because it really has everything. I think you guys kind of get the idea of what I'm saying. So I would do that, and because I can't show you in here, so it's fine. So I already have Airtable open. So literally just two database platforms, same thing. I mainly use AI table because it's something that I basically have a lifetime deal for and I don't need to pay for. But I do build in different platforms just to show people like it's the same thing. So this is kind of like the same thing. This is and kind of getting a little bit more advanced. And while I'm rambling here, the whole point I'm rambling because I want this to finish with this, and then we'll go into testing this. I'm just explaining some building philosophy and stuff like that, right? So and this is the same thing, even if you're not doing it for a client, you can do it for yourself, but you can already have those things set up for a client. This is kind of, for some reason, how I always thought with voice. Like I was already on the dashboard thing, and I was like, okay, since I have all this data, now can I like just make assistants and do different things and stuff like that. So kind of have to think of it like this, right? You have an organization, right? You have voice assistants, and at a time, this also said voice assistants, and then this also said transient assistants. Why I took that out, I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure going back here, right? Because remember earlier I asked this about a change log, and this is still searching. So something, it must be, I don't even know why it's searching Claude. I, so this is for me not being specific, or maybe this didn't paste test what happened because it was searching Claude for some reason. But it's slowly coming back to me. But I think I remember seeing the transient thing removed, and I was pretty sad about it because I know this database for sure had that there, and I was planning to make updates and do some things. I just haven't got around to it. So just to give context once again, customers, numbers, files, knowledge base, Tree, which is a knowledge base platform, doesn't exist uh, anymore. They've changed from providing knowledge bases are not in VAPI, something I need to delete. Just have it here. End of call reports. Then we have area codes, and then all this other stuff is just kind of some extra stuff that you can add to your database. But to kind of make it simple, like think of it like this. Here is your company. You have an organization ID, you have an API key, and then more than likely you would have assistants, right? And that assistant is linked here, which then you would be able to see if there were multiple organizations, which assistant that organization was linked to. And mind you, everything else is still linked to this. So if that is, if you have uh, customers. People don't know this is kind of secret. I might get into this a little bit later. VAPI has an API that they don't show that's called customer, where you can put people, send them to this API, and then they have a customer ID, which if you've been building with VAPI, you've probably seen customer ID and you're like, I never have one. Where is that? It actually does exist. You can use that. Which basically means like you don't have to put the number here. I think you can just put the customer ID in because when you made that customer, the numbers attached to them, they can just be used to even think before, if you're familiar with building with VAPI, if you're watching this, VAPI at first didn't have a scheduled call thing. So this is something that I would use in junction with scheduling out calls for people that I was building for and doing stuff. Then also that end of call report would be tied to that person. Same thing with phone numbers. If you have different phone numbers, they'd probably be tied to different assistants. Then you can track which call was made. Same thing with files. If you upload a file, you can tie that to an assistant because it would be you would because it's too confusing here. Files are their own thing, and then a knowledge base is multiple files inside of there. And because of VAPI have went through multiple iterations of how they handle a knowledge base, that's why that might be a little confusing there. And then you have tools, which I know I'm in this wrong base actually, because this is supposed to be for someone else, even though it's the same thing. Here we go. Let me go into the main template, which is still literally the same thing, but I know I have pre-made tools here. And one cool thing about that, like some other people don't know, like tools can also be transient. Oh, I need to look if they took away transient tools. Please don't let them take away transient tools. Transient tools are so good. And that literally means, once again, like a tool can just be used again. So, and this here, this JSON that you see is kind of what I was saying earlier in terms of being here and building this, right? So I would come when I first played around with that VAPI and I built stuff, especially because like tools were and I know I'm talking a lot before we get into building, but trust me, we'll get into building. But I promise you this. I think this is like super important. When I built all these different tools, right, I knew I was going to need them again. I would save that configuration because I understood how to just plug that in and change out other variables because I was kind of building a database like this and tying things together. So as an example, like I could have an organization here. It's not one here, but if I clicked on this, remember once again, what's in an organization? I have their API key. So then I can just create a new tool with the API with that exact JSON, and then I have a tool already in there to tie to an agent or do whatever. And it just made things really easy, just kind of from a builder perspective. And then obviously we have our end of call reports, which are tied to a customer, which also you can take all of those in-call reports and then just segment them, and then they turn into basically memory, which was like super easy for to have it to remember the conversation. Just take that end of call report, have it in your database, and then when obviously they call that number again, you can have in that workflow to pull in a recent conversation that they have and put it in there as a little bit of context. So the assistant replies. Sweet. So this says, oh, this is the wrong thing. Change log. Remove endpoints. I already knew about this. Right. So it removed the knowledge base endpoints, remove the test suite endpoints, remove the workflow endpoints, remove knowledge base ID, transcriber depreciation, V2, custom model costs. Regarding the assistant field, so it says these fields are still here. And other thing, assistant ID. Hmm. I have to test that, I guess, in a little bit, but it says it wasn't removed, but I just don't know. So sweet. It says this is fully built, no errors. So what can I test first? A web call. Also, if you need to run ngrok or do anything like that, I don't mind doing that as well. And also, did you not download or see that we have access to the VAPI CLI as well? And the reason I'm saying that is I can tell it didn't use the CLI because it's saying that it made a script basically, and the script is not bad at all or anything like that, but it's like, why do I need a script to go do that? That kind of doesn't make any sense. So let it go. Look for ngrok and start ngrok. And basically, if you don't know what ngrok is, but you've heard of that a lot, ngrok is just like because we're using our computer locally, technically, like we can't do certain things or send certain things to the internet. And then ngrok is like allowing us to basically do that. So let me go grab my VAPI information, which once again, I will delete my API key if you see this. So yeah, I know a lot of people try to get happy off that. I'm gonna go into my no. Actually, you know what? Um, I think now we actually can delete API keys or rotate them. Yeah, okay, so that's fine. So we have our private key, public key. I'm not gonna put an ID or a number because I wanted to do that by itself. So let me save this whenever you add files like that, press save. So it says the CLI doesn't have a Windows binary yet, which is wrong. I went through this problem. I think the VAPI documentation is wrong about this CLI thing. But it does have it because I have it in another project. I know that for a fact. So it says sign up, put this, do the web call, needs ngrok, and then we will try a phone one. Sorry, just give me a minute, guys. I'm trying to process. Why would replace the two you're here folders run? Hmm. Let's go with the first option and try that. I did put my API keys inside of the project. And then what I'm going to do really quick is come back here to VAPI just to try to kill two birds with one stone. Not sure why it said that. Oh, we're going to do Windows here and we're going to do Docker because one of those are going to work and I have both. So I'm going to come here and come back. No, that's fine. I want you to look at both of these instructions and then install this CLI. So we have one. Yep, two. Did it combine both of those together that fast, or did this not paste? I feel like it did. Okay. I could be wrong, but let's just see. That was interesting. Now let's start the web server. Invite, click start call. This is so funny because I didn't, did it make a transient one? Because I didn't make anything.
Hello, I'm your Voice Foundation assistant. How can I help you today?
How are you doing today? I'm doing well. I'm just doing a workshop on building with VAPI using Claude Code.
I'm here and ready to assist you. That sounds like an interesting workshop. If you have any questions or need help with anything related to Cloud Code or FAPI, feel free to ask.
No, I just was curious on how your day was going.
Thanks for asking. As an AI, I don't have days like humans do, but I'm always here and ready to help you.
Well, how fast are your minutes flying by? Like in seconds or something? Let me know.
Time doesn't really pass for me. I'm always ready in an instant, like time standing still until you need me. So I guess my minutes fly by at the speed of your next question.
So like 24/7 type stuff. You just ready to go at a moment's notice.
Exactly. I'm here 24/7, no sleep, no breaks, just ready whenever you are.
Got you, got you. All right, well, I appreciate you, Voice Foundation. You've been insightful. So I don't think I've ever just spun it up like that, which is interesting. Okay. So and when it says no backend needed, I'm just very curious on what that means. And did that create a, sorry guys, just give me a minute really quick. Okay, it did. I was just super curious. Did it make an assistant or did it use a transient one? And we'll get to the transient thing in a minute. I will show you guys. Don't worry, because I do not like this being inside of here at all. That's just me personally. So let's come back here. And then can you even do a transient assistant with a web call? Can you make a transient assistant and do a web call? Is that possible? And let's come back here to Claude, let it finish doing this because I do want that CLI. Okay, sweet. It's gonna update the web app to use one because I want you guys to see if I come to my logs, we have this here and it says voice foundation assistant. And if I click on that, it will, oh, well, this will actually go into looking at information here. Now, granted, you don't even have to come in here. You could just ask it what was the call logs, I believe, because I don't think they took away those endpoints or anything, but you should still be able to get that because that information will go to a webhook and do all that other stuff. But just follow me there, guys. Okay, so let's come back. And I filled up the memory, so it's doing that. Let's check this still. This is gonna be trying to run. I remember this messed up. They changed. I need to talk to the VAPI person and tell them to update this because they probably haven't got a lot of people sending this in. But I remember when I first used the CLI, I had this problem as well. Yeah, so let it just keep updating that. And then I'm gonna talk a little bit about what I'm gonna still talk a little bit more about the web. We'll add a tool and then we'll go into the phone and then I'll talk about some other things. See, so now this is actually working. It's just that's a weird, and this is one thing, please, guys, like don't always listen to the AI's first try. Like, don't, it does not know what it's talking about sometimes, which isn't a bad thing. Like, it's totally fine, but I think people should really approach it more um, like that. So I'm assuming they like made another button for the transient assistant. No, it's just the same one. It's just transient. Oh, okay, he just made sure he updated it and did that. Okay.
Hey there. I'm a transient voice assistant. I only exist for this call. What would you like to talk about?
Man, you got to tell me what that's like, only existing for the call. Is that like you're not even like a ghost, like, because technically a ghost would still exist. Like, you just disappear?
Exactly. I'm more like a spark, here for a moment, then gone without a trace. No memories, no lingering, just a flicker in the conversation.
Like a spark? That's a good one. I don't think I've ever heard that one before. So how does it feel so far being a transient assistant that just got spun up?
Honestly, it feels kind of exciting, like being born into a moment with a purpose, even if it's fleeting. What about you? How's your moment going?
I mean, I'm just demonstrating like how to use Claude Code to build voice agents and stuff like that, and I think it's going well. Like you doing what you're supposed to do. I can't complain.
That's awesome to hear. Sounds like you're doing a great job. Anything else you'd like to test or chat about?
Nah, you're all good. I appreciate you. Okay, that's so funny sometimes. So now I would like to test the tools with the web mode. All right, guys, very simple and straightforward. And then just to show you real quick, that was a transient assistant. If I come back here and I go to my logs, as you see, it says unknown assistant. Now, this you can name this assistant and it can still show data and stuff. It's just it doesn't have an ID uh like this here. It has a call ID, right? Everything has a call ID, but it doesn't have an ID here because it literally only exists during that call. So when you hear me say transient, or if you see anything else where I'm talking about transient or why I like them and all that other stuff, um, that's that. And then you can also see I think they changed this for transients, but when you come here in this little log thing, like if I click on this, I think the actual oh no, so they changed it. Usually you could see the assistant like information right there of what that would be, but not anymore. I wonder where they put that at. So now we're letting this set up in Grok so we can test a tool and use a tool, right? And know that works. Sweet. So now the CLI is installed, which is great. Wait, what did that say? Okay, yeah, I knew that. I gotta restart this in order to use that, but we'll get to that in a minute when we do like a little reset after this. So let's do yes. All right, so now we're gonna update the assistant. And I'm also show you it's just simple stuff too and other things like that. So what's the weather in San Francisco and what are your office hours? And then I'm gonna show you something. Now I don't know what the prompt is saying right now. Another thing, of course, as you make this, you would be judging that, but let's just go.
Hey there, I'm a transient voice assistant with tool access. Ask me about the weather or look up some info.
What's the weather?
Could you please tell me the location you're interested in for the weather update?
Los Angeles, California.
Give me a moment. It seems there was an issue. Can you rephrase your request? I'll try again.
Los Angeles, California, South Central.
Give me a moment. It seems I'm having trouble accessing the weather data right now. Could you try again later? Sorry for the inconvenience.
What other tool do you have again?
I can look up information about specific topics like hours, pricing, or VAPI. Just let me know what you need.
What are your hours?
Give me a moment. I apologize. It seems there's an issue with accessing the information right now.
So and that's actually perfect. That's so perfect. I'm glad it messed that up. It would have been cool if it did all that first try, but it's cool because then I can say, hey, for some reason, none of those tools worked. And also, um, maybe you can deduce why by looking at the end of call report or pulling information that you may need. All right. Now, also one thing I just want to note, something very simple, and this is probably not why that happened, but gonna show you something.
Hey there, I'm a transient voice assistant with tool access. Ask me about the weather or look up some info.
What's today's date and what time is it?
I'm unable to provide the current date and time directly, but you can check your device's clock for the most accurate information. How can I help with something else?
Are you sure you can't just tell me what time it is at all? You don't know what time it is or what day it is?
Unfortunately, I don't have the capability to provide real-time date and time information. I can help with other quick.
All right. So one of the most foundational things that you need for your voice assistant to know that, and it's so simple. So if I just switch this really quick, this little regex here. All right. So we're going to copy this, go bam, come back. You need to add this in the system prompt as well. So it is using this variable. Say yes to that. I think I messed up my chat trying to talk. It's fine. Let's paste. Add this variable to the system prompt to be used. All right, so we're going to put that there. And I think I was doing something else here, right? Oh, yeah, that was the Vercel CLI. So we'll wait for that. Let's let it update. So what's the weather? So I wonder what it deduced to saying found a bug. The server logs show unknown tool, undefined, 3 times. The tool calls are reaching the server, but the tool name is being extracted incorrectly. It's undefined. The VAPI wait webhook payload likely nets the function name than our code expect. But also, too, kind of driving back to this point of going back into this account here, did it make a tool? Or we're probably using transient tools. I could be wrong. Maybe it didn't make the tool, or maybe we're using transient tools, which I would expect we more than likely are, because if I go back to the call logs and I look at this here and I look at this, I can actually see like an actual tool call was made. So must be, once again, just going through the logic and building and troubleshooting through this, because this is really where you're spending a lot of time at. It's easy to make a prompt and do all that stuff, but making sure that tool calls work 100% of the time and all those other things is where you'll really be spending a majority of your time. So this is fixing some things. I'm not sure if it's trying to do it. Right, VAPI sends tool calls in an open AI format, which makes sense because that's a very common format. Still updating. And mind you, really quick too, like this simple thing that I make, no matter where I get to at the end, you can literally deploy this to Vercel, deploy this to a VPS, and then now this assistant is just running. Of course, I haven't attached the phone number yet, but same thing when it does. And there you go. And people want to. I'm never the type to try to get into this like you don't need to use Make or you don't need to use N8N. It really depends on your situation, what you choose as a builder, as a business owner, or as a developer. I literally still use all of these tools, whether it's because I want to or I have a client that is literally already using these tools. So I'm not going to go and make them switch and do all that, literally, unless I'm getting paid to do that, right? I'm not trying to have people switch and potentially make more work for myself just because I want to make more money or I want to be in the hype of this platform is better than that platform. I truly believe when you just know how these things work, you don't really get caught up. Um, you're less likely to get caught up kind of like in that perspective of doing things. All of these platforms work. Is that me making an argument that no code automation platforms will disappear? Definitely not. Right. You can use this to make the automated workflows in N8N or Make or whatever the case may be. But like I said, I just want to show some other sides to um, using Claude Code to build things. So this is still updating some stuff. All right, so it says that we're all good. So we can come back here, right? I can do a hard refresh. Let's see.
Hey there, I'm a transient voice assistant with tool access. Ask me about the weather or look up some info.
What's today's date and what time is it?
I don't have access to real time date and time, but you can check directly on your device clock.
That's interesting. I don't want to test the tools yet because one of the first things, like I said, is I gave you a variable to use for the time, and for some reason, the assistant still doesn't know the time. Did you just skip over that and not use it in the system prompt? Not system problem. Right. So for some reason, even though I put that in there, it didn't do it, fine. But you can easily test and do that. And I can easily literally see what it's saying. And what this is literally what I would put. The current date and time is this variable. And it's literally that easy to do, as you'll see.
Hey there, I'm a transient voice assistant with tool access. Ask me about the weather or look up some info.
What's today's date and what time is it?
Today's date is February 10th, 2026, and the time is 12:11 p.m.
What's the weather in San Francisco?
One moment. Oops, I ran into some trouble checking the weather for San Francisco. Want to try again?
Sure. One more time.
Give me a moment. I'm still having trouble fetching the weather for San Francisco. Sorry about that. Is there anything else I can help with?
No. And this will be pretty common. Now, granted, I don't know what that tool is that it's using for that. And I really have two choices. I can ask what it's using and try to get more information and do that. But I'm not really concerned about that. But I do want to try to think of another um example really quick. And actually I'm happy just that that tool is failing. So actually what I want to do is this. Clear this conversation. Actually like stop Claude Code and start it back, right? Why? Because I added the CLI. I'm going to take myself out of plan mode because I just don't want the responses to be long. But we'll try this one more time, right? Say, I want you to go through our tool that we have for this transient assistant using the VAPI CLI and really understand why we are not the tool call is not being successful and what is missing. And I have a pretty good chance. I just, once again, want to show from a kind of brainstorming perspective of what that will be. And then what I want to do really quick is just come back here and into the point that was being made earlier with the phone number. Um, let's just get a free VAPI number really quick. All right, I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna go through the process of the Telnyx or Twilio or any of those other things, but I do think it's just really easy to come get a number from here and just wait a minute or two until it does that, just so you can make calls. Because more than likely, you, most businesses do not have A2P set up still, even though it's been a long time, 4 years now. So you're not going to be able to send text messages anywhere. You're only going to be able to call. But this is not really a bad thing here. So of course I'll have this example of this calling me momentarily here. Also, too, you can use this ID as the phone number to use after the web calls. Now, also, too, what I want to talk about, but that's in back to like kind of this interface thing. And I haven't changed this just because it's very fine. I want you guys to think about kind of like voice interfaces. So I met a very kind gentleman who actually, it's actually funny, really kind of inspired me to get more into like, I guess, coding and at the end of the day. And I met him because I was doing research because like I said, I'm more on the web side. I think phone calls are great with voice, but I really think like the web experience with voice is going to be way better. So he made this thing called VAPI blocks. And VAPI blocks basically is a component library, specifically for VAPI with different components to use for voice stuff. Um, Kind of very cool. And it's kind of opened my eyes to like other things and stuff like that. But like, for example, you can click on this. Hey, how you doing today? Or maybe that's not working today, which might make sense. I see my microphone being used here, but maybe because I'm actually using my microphone, it's like messing something up, if that makes sense, which is okay. And it's still fine. I just want to show you guys this. So like, and I used to use some of these, like this one as an example, send somebody to a page and have them have a different type of experience with voice. Of course, you even have like a coding voice assistant. I wish this one would work right here, even though it's not, but I could.
Hey, I can help you implement some UX with our components. What kind of page are you trying to make?
I just want to build a landing page on how voice AI is like really cool.
Do you want the landing page to have any specific sections or content? For example, a header, features list, call to action, or something else?
Sure, you can have all of those.
Give me a moment. Just a sec.
Yeah, I don't feel like this one is gonna work anymore. He probably doesn't upkeep this anymore, but this would actually show like a separate side thing where it would actually start building that website with code. But I know he's doing like 50,000 other projects and stuff right now. But I do want to show that that's interesting. And that is no, and other platforms as we get into other voice technologies kind of have the same thing, these interfaces to make it really easy for you to start building like a front end interface and stuff like that. So this is just doing some research, trying to fix what's going on. Any questions so far about anything that I've rambled about?
Um, I just a few things. I was typing something out, but at first I was kind of wondering why to code when there's some off-the-shelf solutions, but seeing you work, it makes more and more sense how deeply we can customize it and incorporate different functionality. And I'm kind of thinking, like the voice agent with obviously Claude has a lot of security issues, but it seems like it's going to be easier and easier to build something that can
Yeah,
spin up.
yeah,
Yeah.
specifically speaking on that cloud bot, later on during this challenge, I'm gonna actually have a day where like we build our own cloud bot. So like what's powering cloud bot, actually use that repo to build something that's secure and do whatever you want.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, do it from
Yeah,
scratch.
I really this is pretty mind blowing. I mean, I'm more of a UX background and
Hmm.
dabbling into code.
Hmm.
So I kind of revert to companies that like VAPI that have off the shelf solution, but this makes a lot of sense because I run into limitations. So
Right. Yeah. And for me, like I said, like obviously VAPI is not, a self-hostable platform and all those other things, right? And when, like I said, I would use the dashboard and I could just kind of tell things were off. And obviously, this is not to bash VAPI. I talked to the community leader about this and all things. It's kind of a known problem. It is what it is until they fix it, right? But like I know because my background is API, and I already know, like I said, most platforms front end that you go into, and I'll tell you how I really identified this earlier. A lot of people rave about Zapier, right? And it having 8,000 connections and all this. And once again, I'm in a whole Zapier community. I'm not trying to bash Zapier or anything. This is just my perspective as a person who's been in no code since the ninth grade, right? I used to be on that crazy hype train, but as I learned that when I go to Zapier, or even when I go to just any of these automation platforms, and for example, I click Todoist and I want to see the integrations, every API endpoint that they offer is not there. For me personally, that's not good. If I want to build anything or use this endpoint, which is what at least my perspective, they want people to automate or develop and build other products around, we want the full flexibility. So yeah,
yeah.
it's cool Zapier gave me 8,000 integrations, but if all of those companies have at least 50 endpoints and I'm only able to use five, I'm not getting the full power of this platform, point blank and period. That's always how I see it. So same thing with VAPI. VAPI is very great. The interface does what it needs to do, even with its problems. And I can also tell that um, they're trying. For me, I will say, not to make an excuse, I understand why their dashboard has so many problems because I would at least attribute it to the fact that if you look at the API, kind of how I was going in there, look how many options there are. You can
Hmm.
even put that on the screen to make that visually easy or appealing to someone, right? The basic UI UX is we got to put what's basic here, what's work, or what's getting more recommended. There's a plethora of times that I've said, like, hey, have you looked in the API and that exact thing you're talking about is a feature. You just don't know about it because they don't show it on the front end, right?
Hmm.
So I ran into that a lot, which is why I'm always a fan of knowing the API. Back to your side, but it
Hmm.
doesn't matter if you're technical like me, knowing the limitations and what you can do are going to help you build better in whatever way you build. It doesn't
Awesome.
matter if you're technical or non-technical.
Yeah. Awesome.
Um,
Appreciate it.
yeah. And then also too, and once again, I love Vappy, but I'm always going to knock them where they fell short. Their documentation. So for me, right, as someone who, once again, is a developer, I'm used to reading documentation. There's this weird thing that I don't like where people are like, documentation is so hard to read. And I truly, truly believe it's just because people don't like reading and they make a super easy excuse. I just truly believe that because it's super easy to just glance through some stuff. And even at the time, taking that whole page and just putting it in Chat GPT is like the worst best thing you can do literally to try to understand it, right? And as a developer, I still do the same thing, even though I know how to look at all these nested brackets and read these things, I'm still going to try to develop this thing. And I'll share this because I also forgot to highlight something earlier in the beginning when I was talking about like how I'm analyzing, breaking down these sections and these different components of building a voice assistant, which I will show a little bit more of that still. I haven't even kind of shown what I'm talking about. I built I built a system that allowed me to build multiple custom GPTs. And that framework allowed me to apply that to this here. So earlier you kind of seen that database of assistants, and then I just had Chat GPT at the time make all of those assistants. So super easy, like, hey, I'm using this platform called VAPI, and kind of going into a little bit more. Hopefully, this is not too segue because I imagine it's still a lot of people want to sell voice AI to other people. So, like, how would you go about that? This is how I went about it, like from the opposite side of a developer trying to give people like you guys tools to go build for your clients, if that makes sense, right? So I'm using VAPI as a platform. I at least have 50 different friends that are in 50 different industries. Go make me these 50 different agents that would at least handle the same across all of these, right? Calendar, event, lead to speed, super basic stuff that's going to be across the board. And then how do I make that into something that's just configurable and read deployable? So first off, I don't want to we'll come back to this test in a minute to test that, but I want to kind of go into this because I think it killed the server and started it back. So I have both of these in N8N and Make. I'm just showing N8N because I think really literally just visually it does look better, even though Make is visually as well. So if I type in I don't need to type in anything. This is all in a folder. So if I go in my voice assistance folder, right? And for instance, let's talk about there's gonna be one here that's weird. Maybe here we go. So let's take this slow. Remember, I keep talking about transient assistance, right? So if what is the Hive API? Ah, that's an image generator thing. What am I looking for here? It's supposed to be this, but it's not because I don't see it. So I must have moved it. Hmm. It didn't. Okay, it's all right. I'm gonna find you because you're here somewhere. And if you're not here, you're in a client's account, so don't worry. So let's come back to this dashboard assistant thing because it's kind of really the same thing. Did I update this or something? Why is this like this now? Am I missing something here? Hmm. Maybe I do need to go back to May, or maybe you know what? I do have like 3 N8N accounts, so just forgive me for the mind dupe real quick. But if it's not in that main one, then it wouldn't be in all the other ones. But let's walk through this from an automation standpoint, right? So like very simple, of course, this could be configured. Um, from Airtable or from AI table, from my database in general, doesn't matter what it is, right? And just to go back over that, and this automation is not going to work. We're just walking through this in real time, right? Remember, once again, we let's just assume we understand all of the configurations that we want for VAPI, right? Because that's kind of what I'm saying. I already had that. Oh, and here's my main template. It had the. Why weren't you loading earlier? You made me look like super retarded. Oh my God. Okay. Anyway, so name, description, context, goals, task, responsible guidelines, conversation flow, right? This would, I don't remember, but either way, it would still work. I would either insert something in here or based on this actual description. And of course, these are small, but of course, people put way more stuff in here. This would generate the content, goals, and task, response guideline, conversation flow. I would already have the industry tone and style, which is, I wouldn't say not needed, but yeah, you could put it there. An attachment is just a picture. So in that AI table one, you saw like, I don't know if you saw, but like all of those. And forget if I'm switching and this is too fast, just let me know and I'll slow down. But that page that I was on when I was in here, and I'm going in here because I used to give this to other people when they joined the community I used to have. to build faster. Like all of these have pictures, right? Of course, this is like way before Nano, but Nano came out. But these are literally different, like 100 different industries where some type of assistant is made, just to once again try to make sure the context is here, right? So that what that attachment picture would be, um, name of the call is because in the API you can name what you want that call to be or what that call is going to be when you go back and look at the call log. Also, think about this. The first message. So I used to get a lot of people that wanted to build something with voice, and they're like, we want our clients to edit it. We want our clients to edit it. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, yeah, I don't think you understand how many settings that there are to edit. And more than likely, you've already probably done something where you don't want it to edit that. So, what is a client actually going to edit, no matter how you're going to present it to them or give it to them? More than likely, it's just going to be probably the name of the call, if not that, the first message, the system prompt, the in call message, and the voicemail message. More than likely, that is literally it. Anything else they touch, they're going to break the shit. I 100% guarantee you. Or VAPI's own screen is going to break something. I promise you. And then this is retired, but you could put like how you want the analysis to be, the structured data, the success evaluation. Now, keep this in mind, this master JSON thing. I'm going to try to find one, but I don't. I might not be able to remember where I have one. And then voice assistants, it's literally all the kind of the same thing. It just works a little different because that information would already be inside of like the actual VAPI dashboard, right? Transient assistants, you're basically kind of already configuring or setting up that stuff. So basic workflow coming back here to make that information is sent to a webhook. We open up Chat GPT, right? And you see all the same stuff here, right? I'm gonna say like, right, yeah, yeah. So I have this system prompt here saying like, you're an expert in designing conversational voice assistant. Once they provide this, you're gonna make that, and then I actually give them that information, right? And once again, I can't fully show you, but like this JSON here is me actually, and this is like a smaller version. I actually know this is not here, so I'm speaking too long. I'm giving an example of that JSON of what I want it to be. And the reason that is because I have that JSON fully built. So hopefully this is not too confusing. And Make, they allow you to store a JSON to like use where you can just pass information. So once again, right, if you're building voice assistants, you're already probably set on a voice provider, right? You're set on a model, you're set on these things. Probably very rare you're going to change them. And even if you do, in an automation standpoint, you could just make another route where it has that configuration. But this is the assistant set, right? It doesn't matter how many businesses come to me and say, I want this type of assistant. All of the base settings are the same. Hopefully that makes sense. So I don't have to build that over, right? Then I'm going to send that back into ChatGPT. And then this is actually, oh, this is just the picture generator right here. But these two right here would have made that full JSON reference that I keep talking about. So basically, whenever I want to go make a call and I don't think I have one on here that just has straight yeah, this one might have it. Please do, because I think example form went straight to transient assistant, right? Yes, yes, this is what it looks like. Perfect. So literally all of this here, as you can see, right, this assistant doesn't have an ID, right? And this is literally me configuring the entire assistant. And some people used to ask this, like, how are you putting variables inside of the assistant? Well, I'm making the call right from the API. Still doesn't matter. All the same, whether this happens in Airtable, Supabase, whatever the case may be. I even have old videos of me showing Airtable making calls. And this is probably a whole nother case. Like, you don't even technically need automation platform. Like, you could do all of this in Airtable. And I know that sounds crazy. But yeah, that's what I used to do. So I have all these fields right here. And this was actually, if I'm right, I made this, and I'll probably have to bring it back actually. This was a form that people filled out and they would talk to the AI, and then it would go make their assistant based on that same thing that I just told you about. So they probably asked them, like, hey, whatever questions want to go into that automation to build this same exact configuration that's going to look like this to call them so they can test it. Just many different ways I was doing lead magnets and stuff. But yeah, you see, right, we have our analysis plan here. When that was a thing, it would say just a bunch of configurations. I don't want to try to get too technical because I already am, but I'm basically saying this would be my template and there are only certain things I need to change with these variables. And it's many ways you can automate in a database or whatever platform that you're using to do that, whether it's for a transient assistant, whether it's for a regular assistant, same thing for tools, so forth and so on. You can have one calendar tool. Let's just say I had one calendar tool, right? All of my clients use Google. I can make one tool that they all can use dynamically with their own Google credentials. Sounds crazy, right? Because what do most people do? Make a tool that is tied to each person. Not that that's bad, but it's getting more into looking at these configurations and seeing what you're able to do. Now, I know I got to get back to the whole call thing, and I just kind of went on a tangent, but any questions so far about that? Because once again, I do think it's very important.
Not right now. This is pretty mind-blowing. I mean, the idea of automating the entire setup, it makes sense. And I find myself thinking about the calendar, some of those pieces like notifications after once a agent is set up, notifying that, oh, we had a completed call, this and that. But it seems like all of that is, yeah, this is
I
not
would
that.
say, and let's kind of go into that because I think one of the big things is, and it's really quite interesting. Once again, I guess from an oldies point of view of somebody being in the space, the biggest problem when it came to voice platforms was at that time, right? Because this was about what, 3, 4 years ago now, right? At that time, it's still a whole influx of new people leaving different careers, jobs, layoffs, all that, getting into AI and or automation, right? In general. So a lot of people are starting fresh. They don't even know Zapier, they don't know Make, they don't even N8N wasn't even going viral at that time, even though certain people were talking about it and using it, right? What's really cool about Claude Code with Bridges one gap is taking away that barrier of simple calendar, right?
Mm,
If you're my client and you say, hey, Chowder, I want to set up this for you, I only really have two options. And some people it's really hard to, I guess, have a conversation around this. Hey, look, in order to set this up for you, right? Do you use an automation platform? Why am I saying that? Because remember, at this time, there was no Claude code, right?
mhm,
There was no vibe coding. So the only way you were going to create something was if you created an automation like this, which whether it was an N8N or Make, where you have the stuff here. And once again, this is from a dynamic point of view. I understand that multiple people are going to want a calendar, besides the fact that people are having problem with calendar APIs, right? So I'm going to make an automation. Hey, you got N8N or Make? Plug this in there. All you got to do is look at this little pencil thing, put in your Go high level calendar, put in your Google Calendar, put in whatever, and you got to do that. Now,
mm,
that gap is entirely taken away. I can say, hey, look, I can make this interface, right? Make this interface with Claude Code. And then while I'm talking to it, say, hey, look, I need a page where, when they log in, they click Google and connect their Google Calendar,
mm.
right? That's
Wow.
really
Wow. I see. Wow.
that's really
Wow.
probably the biggest gap thing that is probably going to open the barrier for people using a tool like Claude Code with any voice platform. When it comes to integrating, you had to use an automation platform because that was the skill level of most people. Now Claude Code is kind of like, I guess in a way you could say taking that away. I'm not sure if that's the right statement to use, but it's making it less trivial. Even though it kind of wasn't trivial, and I can only say that because I have the luxury of being used to being in a space where clients already use automation platforms. It's not new. And also, I have a trust value so high that if I recommend a client to get an automation platform or if they come to me for a service, it's kind of like a non-negotiable type thing. They already kind of know that they're probably going to get some new tech stack or something like that. Everybody's not in that space or does not have that experience. But it is cool that Claude Code allows to, like I said, bridge that gap of like integrations and doing stuff. So any statements or questions before I kind of get back into it?
This might be off track. Claude Code, like I'm having it build me CRMs, things like that, but you might have covered this already. Cost. It seems like the cost is kind of the biggest.
Of Claude Code itself.
Yeah, yep.
So I think personally from my experience, I've been running on the $200 plan, and obviously it's
Oh,
probably
nice.
you guys, as you guys can tell, like I build a lot and do a lot. So I would probably use my limit. Now, what I will say, in being kind of like really technical, I do think the $100 plan, it will be the base in general. $20 plan just goes up
Yep.
too fast. I do think
Yeah.
it's a good experimental way for anyone to start using it. But I do think like if you're like, hey, I like this tool and I want to get value from it, $100 plan, no brainer. And I, to be honest, like if I didn't have a mind to build things very fast to run up my usage, I probably would still be on the $100 plan.
Mm.
Just I think that alone kind of um explodes like my usage rate. But like I said, I haven't, I guess for me it's a little different because I don't think I think Claude Code at first was really meant to be a developer tool, but it just transitioned into what's going to become like really an everyday tool that anyone can use. I just happen to really understand CLI tools and all that stuff, and then I just tie that in with my API background and just connecting stuff, even though there's a lot of things that I don't know that I'm building or learning or researching like all at the same time and stuff like that. But I also don't build from scratch. As you can see, I always build from like templates or other things, which is like drastically speeding up just anything that I'm building, especially like once again, if I've already built it like multiple times, it's voice being an example. But I think the $100 plan is good. The $100, I think it's like maybe like 225 messages all together, somewhere around there. And I think the $200 one, if I'm right, I think it jumps to like 9,000. The refresh is the same though, of like 5 hours. And then there's a weekly timer, and I've only hit that weekly timer one time, and that was because one week I was yeah, I don't know what I was doing that week. I was going crazy. I was like, yeah. But I wasn't even upset about me hitting it because I was getting work done. I think it's
Mhm.
different when you hit a session and like you feel like you didn't accomplish anything or whatever was the actual like measurement of like, oh, these three things needed to be done or features or whatever it was, website needed to be up, it wasn't done, then yeah, I feel like, okay, maybe you gotta figure out how to identify that. But for me, like I couldn't really be mad. I was like, damn, you know what? Like if at the end of the day, I wouldn't have gotten that far without it being that. So fuck it, I'm gonna go wait 4 hours and probably, to be honest, take a break, go work out, go do something, just get back into the world. Or I'm doing research for that next session because I already know what I want to ask it next or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, awesome. I'm convinced. I don't know why I waited this long to upgrade because I kept on thinking, but yeah, it's yeah, no brainer.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, to be honest, like, and I don't want to say it's very rare. I feel like that with tools, but like, and I won't lie, paying $200 for a tool, like, that's excessive. But I think, like, for my own measurement, like, man, I can't
Yeah.
complain, bro. Yeah, because I got clients where like I do this same thing where like they have vibe coded projects and I'm teaching them with Claude Code doing that. And with that, it even just reduces the time and so much stuff because not to get into the technicals of Claude Code, but like you can the same way it makes like a markdown file, you can do that with projects in GitHub or just in general. Right. So I
Hmm.
can like right now, basically what a lot of my clients ask me when I vibe code, they're like, hey, look, bro, we're ready to just pump out shit because we know you can do it, right? So we don't want you building as much. We gonna bring on somebody that you can kind of teach. And because I've taught them how to set up their environments to not just push to production, they're like, we're just gonna have him do the feature test and then we just look at the PRs and then just you get what I'm saying? Like they're trying to create this kind of like now they can give the idea to someone and train them also because they really do want to bring on some people, but because I'm like a big asset with like vibe coding some of these things, like I'm kind of at a record now of like making MVPs at least in 5 hours to 2 days, and that is
Hmm.
consistent of And this is not me using my full SaaS template that I bought, but this is just consistent of authentication, what's called a platform kit. So like a UI from an admin perspective when you're on cloud,
Hmm.
um, notifications, Stripe subscriptions, like all that stuff is there. Like it's really more so of building 4 or 5 features and going from
Wow.
there. And I'm doing that like minimum 5 hours, max 2 days,
Wow.
max maybe minimum 10 hours. So people are like, hey, bro, I got ideas, and like they probably seen some other stuff that I built. Like, yeah, let's do this. And also one main thing that I'm going to be teaching later is like now there are these platforms that are coming out with like vibe coding and stuff like Superbase and Vercel. They basically have these backends to where basically if I build something, I can just deploy it to you. And it can either, let me rephrase that. I can build something and instantly choose, I want this to be white label and you have access to it. Or I can deploy it to you. It's your own code base and it's separate from what I built. And that's kind of really back of what I'm getting into. I used to do WordPress like that, but going into the automation space, to really be honest with it, maybe I never it clicked for me, but that is kind of the same thing what I'm doing now. So now like eventually when I have a community or I build like for instance a small white labeled VAPI, it'll literally be a matter of like if you join this community, you can have a white label version to sell to your clients, or you can just deploy it to your own Vercel or Superbase and have everything there, and it's your own code base and you just work from it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate everything you're doing. And I do have to head out pretty soon, but I'll reach out on the WhatsApp group because I'd love to talk a little bit more.
Oh yeah,
About
for sure, no problem.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to. I know we're past the time, and I do think this is a good session. I know I didn't get to the phone part, yeah, which hopefully too many people won't be mad. But like I said, that is, I'm not trying to diminish that. That stuff is really, as someone who spent hours building voice assistant, that's not a problem. Even when it comes to the terms like SIP trunking and setting all that stuff up, this same kind of like way of building block that I'm talking about, you can do the same type of like segmentation and set that up. Of course, I'm speaking for a client and like if you want to give this to other clients, because if it's for yourself, you don't have to go through all those things. But like it really comes down to the testing, the edge cases, making sure your tools are firing right, and all those little things in between. Like, and that's not to say you won't edit the prompt and stuff like that, or there aren't other things, but I didn't really find that to be the problem. And
Mhm.
to be even more specific, like, I think the biggest problem, and it's kind of not even related to me because I'm in the US, is like just different, um, what is the word? Languages.
Mhm.
That's a big one. So like I used to tell a lot of people that I used to meet from like the Middle East and stuff, like if you guys were to do some community stuff where you made a local model, and obviously this was like way back, but if you make a local model that could translate or train people to do stuff more, because one of the main things I used to always get is 11, like I said, 11 labs is expensive. Like they're good, but they are expensive. And for sure, at least every other week, people would ask me, "Hey, bro, like, what are you using besides that?" And I would recommend Cartesia. I probably have to do an actual analysis over what I would really recommend on some like default setting, because obviously some things have changed, new models have coming out, all those other things. But I used to be a straight just open AI GPT 4.1 mini nano Cartesia, and I was solid. Like I everything that people would complain didn't work, I had working, but not to downplay anyone. I had templates from everything that I built when I solved the problem that I never had to build again. And I just reiterated from that and really went into the weeds of sometimes messaging personal people. I mean, not personal people, but people in general, or people would reach out to me and whether they're on a different platform. The tool situation was a very, because I don't want to downplay it, the tool situation was a very complex one. I just really had the benefit of once again coming from an API background, but also when it came to making custom GPTs, that kind of literal tooling format is the exact same thing, like bar none. So, like I said, when I got into voice, it was like really easy to look at it, like, which is why I made the VAPI GPT, like, oh, I can turn this into this tool that can just how are we building voice assistants fast? Because that's really going to be the main important thing, no matter on what platform you're doing. And I can tell because VAPI is a developer platform, API first. That's what it's going to be like, opposed to, when we might talk about like retail or, SendFlow, kind of, I don't want to say lower platforms, but other platforms, like their API is not extensive. You don't have as much variables or settings to configure for whatever those reasons may be and stuff like that. But no, I do think that this was a good one. I do think I do kind of want to end that one. I know I didn't do a phone call or anything because I do like, to be honest, tomorrow, just for a heads up, like we're doing Live Kit, which is literally another voice platform. It's really more focused towards self-hosting and stuff, kind of be in the mix of that. But it'll be kind of like the same thing there. So I'll kind of probably pick it up. Hopefully, it doesn't make people too mad or too upset or anything like that. But yeah. Any last questions? I know Philip, you got to get out of here. Uh J Moon. Oh, that kind of makes sense. And I don't want to say your name wrong. Is it Suknik?
Yeah, Sukneet, but I go by
Oh, okay.
Sook for
Oh,
short.
Suk.
Sook.
Yeah, got you, got you. I think you joined last time. I think it's your second time joining, right?
This is my first time.
Oh, this is
I
your first. Okay,
wanted
never mind. You might have somebody with a name that was different. I apologize. I be
no,
getting
no,
some difficult names sometimes.
all good. I've wanted to join. I just like always have a meeting right now usually, and then today,
Oh, okay, okay,
yeah.
okay. No
But I've
problem.
been
This
like hungry. Yeah. We'll see.
this is going on. Like all of these are recorded and I'm uploading them to YouTube, even if you don't
Wow.
subscribe. So don't worry about that. Even though I'm telling people to subscribe, I would just kind of more like a inspiration type thing. Because to be honest, like everything I'm still doing, like I'm gonna do again by myself and actually have format. This is on purpose, not to kind of like have a format, be hands-on, just using Claude Code with a different tool and answering questions and stuff like that, if it makes sense. There is no
Yeah.
real kind of in specific goal. Every day you're gonna have this or that, kind of more about just, hey, I'm a developer that uses this tool. There's a lot of stuff that I think goes on in terms of content that makes it just really, I guess, quote unquote, scary for no apparent reason. Granted, knowing developer stuff is cool. Taking all the stuff that I say that falls in that realm, it's not important to just hop in Claude Code and start using it. So
Mhm.
that's the main reason I'm doing these 30 days, but I do have other stuff kind of built around that whole kind of challenge, inspiration mindset thing.
Yeah, awesome. This is amazing. I mean, this feels I feel like we're cheating, chatting with you, just looking over your shoulder. Like this is phenomenal. Yeah. Really
Yeah,
appreciate
I would say, yeah, I mean, like I don't want to be too biased. It's just I don't, and besides like, let me use it because this is my metric personally. I've been in automation since I was in the ninth grade, which I don't remember what year that was, but that was when IFTT came out, which was like
Wow.
a year before Zapier, right?
Hmm.
So that's how long I've been, and I really like to give context because I can understand how I might not come off as genuine when I give information or do certain things. But I've been in the space so long doing it in my personal life before I even started a business in 2021. My first business was a credit repair company. Obviously, you still got to have a website, do technical stuff. Through that and through credit repair communities, I saw like technology is where I should be at because I
Hmm.
understand this stuff and I can build it.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what I went into. Like I am mainly a developer, but I am one of the developers that also focuses on education and consulting. Whereas there's a lot of developers who literally just build. They don't focus on trying to educate and do that. And I always just felt like eventually, because of the type of clients I would get, they would either like, how could I explain it, make too much money or kind of get scammed to where like they understood, you know what, I should have took some time to understand some things or pay someone to do that for me, which kind of just led me down a path of trying to give information just like how I learned it. Like when I was learning this, the word jargon didn't exist. A webhook with webhook, right? OAuth meant OAuth, and then like these words have terms now, and I do understand it. I do think it's getting harmful now, though. Like people try to just make it seem like being technical is bad or there's no benefit in all this other stuff, which is an entirely different conversation. I just like to demystify that kind of at the end of the day. And I am someone who's actually spent hundreds of hours building well, like I said, APIs are my specialty, but through that, like I've made a WordPress as a service system, which is equivalent to high level, how they distribute sub accounts. I did the same thing with WooCommerce and WordPress. Like I did the 5,000 plus GPT creator thing. Like all I do is build. So when it comes to actual development, I will say I'm kind of biased, but that's just because of like real life experience. But now, of course, since AI came out and a lot of people are getting into this space, before we get into like tools like this, I just think like too many influencers are kind of just like polluting and making the process slower. So I can not ramble. That is kind of a very bold statement, but at this point, because I do serve in a lot of communities, I've worked in a lot of communities, I've got paid to work in communities. I have people who are very popular on YouTube, multiple people who every day talk to me to get content the same way how I'm doing to put it out there. So I say, I got to stop kind of bullshitting and just do it. And I have other friends who make fun of me because I don't have content and stuff. So I say, you know what? I'm gonna just go build from 30 days and start from there.
Awesome. It's I really appreciate that you're doing this because I mean it's I think your approach, your philosophy, and your concern about people building in the trenches, I think there needs to be 100% more creators like you. So I really appreciate that you're taking this step and anything I can do to support, subscribe, comment, whatever, other
Yeah,
way.
yeah. I'm right now. It's really just the basis. I think like on Luma, you can subscribe. Like I said, I have to finish out the rest of the events for this week. I think I just added another week. I got one more week to add, and then just sharing besides that. And I do think I'll have to look at it or emphasize or make like a blast. I think on Luma, there, if you go to the calendar, there's something there that so two things. One, I think they send feedback, and if they don't, let me know because I think that's like an automatic setting I have, just feedback in general about whatever it may be. And then there's also, I think, a feature where you can submit like an event idea that you have, and I'll be happy like to do that, build with it with Claude Code or do something like that because that's literally what I do every day for at least 20 hours is I'm building with something different, either because more than likely, it's a client or a friend wants me to do something type thing, but I do have time where I'm building my own stuff and exploring and doing all that. Also attributing to kind of stuff like this because, and I don't want to keep you guys too long. Like because I'm in that space, I kind of see and I guess understand like what platforms are being used. So, for example, like Supabase, Firecrawl, there's a good amount of platforms that I'm going to be partnering with because I'm going to be doing live cohorts. Just once again, hands-on, come here for 1 or 2 hours, leave with actually something instead of talking about it or looking at it on YouTube because you've probably done that way too many times. And kind of like as you may see or other people tell me like, wow, why did I wait so long to just get in here and do something?
100%.
hmm So I appreciate you guys. This recording will be, oh, do you have I don't think you have the YouTube channel, do you? Let me put this in the chat for you if you don't have it. So you can see the other recordings. And then probably like in an hour or two, this will be up on there so you can watch it. And for probably like for the first month, I'm not doing like any cuts or edits. It's literally just raw everything. And then later I'll do like little intros and little things like that in between, but it's all just regular.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys. Of course, feel free to message me and contact anyway, YouTube, LinkedIn, or whatever if you don't have that. As a matter of fact, let me just like put my email right here.
And your feedback works, by the way, the flow with Luma.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Thank you. Sure. I think
Yeah.
I only had a few people use it, so I wasn't sure yet, but got you. But yeah, my email's right there. And if you guys want to, send me a personal message for whatever reason, feel free to reach out. But I will let you guys go. Feel free to share the YouTube channel or invite somebody to an event, and I'll see you guys later. Enjoy your day. Don't work too hard.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
Take care.
Bye bye.